The first time Amir noticed her, she was standing just inside the entrance of the small coffee shop, her eyes moving over the menu with a quiet uncertainty. Morning light from the wide windows touched her face, and she kept her hands close to her chest as if protecting herself from the noise around her. Amir had come in with his young son, Rami, who was tugging at his sleeve and asking for warm milk. It should have been an ordinary stop before school. But the young woman by the door did not move toward the counter. She only watched the barista's mouth, trying to read the words spoken too quickly. Amir recognized the look. Lost, unsure, hoping not to be noticed. Rami was already seated at a table. Amir approached the woman gently, offering a small smile. "Can I help you?" She startled but then nodded. She moved her hands in a soft rhythm, and he realized she was deaf. He pointed to his mouth and then to the menu, letting her know he would speak slowly. It took a moment, but she understood, and the tension in her shoulders eased. She pointed to a picture of a plain latte, then tapped her chest. He carried her request to the counter for her. The barista called out the order while glancing at the woman with mild confusion. Amir brought the cup back and placed it in her hands. She bowed her head in thanks, fingers brushing her heart. They ended up sitting near each other. Rami was drawing on a paper napkin, leaving Amir free to notice the way the young woman kept watching him. It was not cautious or fearful. More curious. As if she were waiting to speak without words. She took out a small notepad and wrote a name. Nadia. Then she slid the pad toward him and smiled. He wrote his own name and pointed at Rami. She nodded again. For a few moments they spoke with brief notes, simple things about coffee, the weather, the long line. Then she wrote another message with a slight tremble. "You knew my sister." The question cut through him. He froze. He told himself he had misunderstood, but her gaze was steady. He wrote carefully. "What was her name?" Nadia wrote again. "Sarah." He felt the world narrow around him. He had not heard that name in years. He remembered a bright girl who lived down the street when he was younger. Always running, always laughing, always trying to keep up with the older kids. She had been a friend to him in ways no one else had been. Then she had disappeared from his life after a tragic accident. A road at night. A car that did not stop. He had never spoken of it to anyone except the police at the time, and even then he had left many things unsaid. He looked at Nadia. She was waiting with a calm that felt like a hand on his shoulder, urging him to breathe. He wrote slowly. "I knew her. I have not heard her name in a long time." Nadia read the words and pressed her lips together. She wrote again. "I never knew the truth. My parents said it was an accident. But yesterday someone told me you were there. That you might know more." Amir felt old guilt rising like a tide. It was the kind of guilt that settles deep and becomes part of a person. He pressed the pen against the paper and paused. "I was a child. I was scared." Rami tugged his sleeve again, asking if he could go wash his hands. Amir nodded and sent him off, then turned back to Nadia. Her silence was patient but heavy with hope. The past returned with sharp clarity. He had been outside that night, sneaking out to meet friends. He saw Sarah riding her small bicycle down the street. A car turned the corner too fast. The driver saw her too late. Amir had been the only one who witnessed the full moment. He had been too young to understand what courage meant. He ran to her, but she was already slipping away. He also saw the driver leave. He remembered the license plate. He remembered the name on the police report that asked if he truly believed he had seen it correctly. His own fear had made him uncertain. His silence had left many things unanswered. He looked at Nadia and wrote everything he remembered. How Sarah had smiled at him earlier that day. How she had been brave. How he had held her hand just before the ambulance arrived. How he had carried the guilt of that night through every stage of his life. Nadia read the words slowly, tracing each line. For a long moment she did not move. Then her eyes filled with tears, and she closed the notepad. She lifted her hands, forming a shape that meant thank you. She pointed to her heart. Then to him. She wrote one more line. You gave me the truth. This is what I needed. He felt something inside him loosen, as if a locked door had opened. Rami returned with damp hands and a grin, and the tension in the moment softened. Nadia reached out and gently waved at him. He waved back without hesitation, always open to strangers. Nadia stood, slipped the notepad into her bag, and placed a hand lightly on the table. Not goodbye. Something more like peace. She took a final look at Amir, and her smile held gratitude with an ache beneath it, but it was healing. Then she walked out into the glow of the late morning. Amir watched through the window as she paused by the street, letting the sun warm her face. He realized she had walked into the coffee shop carrying years of unanswered questions, and she had walked out with something closer to closure. Rami climbed onto his lap and leaned against him. Amir brushed his son's hair back and held him close. For the first time since he was a boy, the memory of Sarah did not come with the same crushing weight. It came instead with the quiet knowledge that he had done what he should have done long ago. He had given truth to the one person who needed it most. And in that simple act of